6:04 right now. I see Philip. I see Cody. Alan, are you the new commissioner?
Yes.
Okay, just double checking. And I see we have Mark as well. So, and we also got Cody. So Mark, Cody, Alan, and Philip. Looks like we have a quorum.
We do.
Okay. So I'm going to call the meeting to order. It's 6:04 right now. We'll start off with roll call.
Brent Bybee.
Here.
Cody Cornett.
Here.
Alan Easling.
Here.
Philip Mosher.
Yep.
Mark Popoff.
Here.
And Jeff Stiles is absent.
All right. So now we'll move to approval of the agenda. Were there any corrections that folks saw for the agenda, or did staff have any changes?
I didn't have anything.
Okay. I'm not hearing anyone jump up. So would someone like to entertain a motion?
A motion to approve the agenda.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Okay. It was moved by Alan and seconded by Mark. How would you like us to vote, Paula? By hand?
That's fine. Oh, I'll need a verbal confirmation from Mark. Otherwise, you can just raise your hands.
Okay. All those in favor, raise your hand.
Thank you. Mark?
Aye.
Thanks.
And those opposed? Is there any?
Sorry. I think that
Paula, Cody is also with us.
Yeah.
Oh. Cody, you're muted.
And your video is also off.
Cody?
There he is. Let's see if I can get on. Well.
Cody? Are you in favor of the agenda?
yeah, I'm in favor of the agenda. Sorry.
There we go. Okay. Okay. So it looks like it was unanimous. No one opposed. Okay. So we'll move on to approval of the minutes from July 16, 2020. Were there any corrections folks had for that? I'm not seeing anyone jump up.
I've got a question. I wasn't at the last meeting. Do I vote on the minutes anyway? I already read them.
I think since, oh, you said you weren't at the last meeting?
Yeah.
If you weren't at the last meeting, then I think you would abstain from voting.
Okay.
Since you weren't a part of that meeting. So yeah, other than that, does anyone have any corrections or anything, or would like to entertain a motion?
I motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting.
From the July 16th hearing?
Yes.
Okay. And I'll second that. All right, it was moved by Cody, seconded by myself. All those in favor of approving it, raise your hand. Or if you're on the phone, say aye. Oh, Mark's abstaining, so never mind. And those opposed? And I see none opposed. So it's unanimous.
And I'm abstaining, of course.
Okay. Thank you, Mark. Okay, so now we'll move into the public comment portion of the hearing. Do we have any members of the public that would like to speak about anything that's not in relation to what we're hearing during the main portion of the hearing tonight? I see a couple folks, Chanel Smith and Heather. I know Chanel is the applicant for the variance request. Heather, if you do have anything to say for this, just unmute yourself. And there's also an iPad user as well.
Hi, I'm Sandy. I'm the one that's the iPad one.
Okay. Did you have any public comment, or are you here just for the main portion of the hearing?
I'm just here for the main portion. I'm Chanel's mom.
Oh, okay. Perfect. All right.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. Okay, so I'm not hearing anyone else jump up. We'll move on from the public comment portion of the hearing, and we'll move into the quasi-judicial public hearing. And I'm going to recite the script from some of the past hearings just to, for continuity and making sure that we cover all our bases. So now is the time specified for the Planning Commission to conduct the hearing regarding variance 127-20. Due to the ongoing COVID-19 health crisis, the city's public hearing procedures for tonight's quasi-judicial hearing have been amended. On April 15th, 2020, the governor issued executive order number 20-16 titled Keep Government Working, ordering necessary measures to ensure safe public meetings and continued operations by local governments during coronavirus outbreak. On June 26, 2020, the Oregon Legislative Assembly passed House Bill 4212, which allows local government and other public bodies to hold virtual meetings so that they can continue to provide essential services and make decisions in a public and transparent manner, while preventing the spread of COVID-19 and protecting public health. Consistent with the governor's order in House Bill 4212, the city has implemented the following procedures for tonight's public hearing. The meeting is accessible to the public via Zoom, and access instructions were provided in the agenda packet that is posted to the city's website. The land use application and all related documents, including the applicable criteria, were posted to the city's website for public viewing. All written testimony was timely posted to the city's website for public viewing and also transmitted to the planning commissioner so that the testimony could be considered in a timely manner. The procedures for providing live testimony at tonight's hearing are as follows. You must be recognized by the chair before providing testimony. The participants in tonight's hearing are currently muted and will be unmuted when called on by the chair. If you have logged into this meeting from your computer and you would like to testify, please raise your hand using the icon at the bottom of your Zoom screen. The chair will call on you either by your name or whatever designation appears on your Zoom screen. Planning staff will be assisting the chair throughout this process. If you're calling in from your home or cell phone, please wait until we have called on everyone that is logged in from their computers. Those who have joined using their phones will be asked if they wish to speak next. We ask everyone to be respectful, limit background noise, and not talk over each other. You must state your name and address before you begin speaking. Please speak slowly. We'll open the hearing with the staff report. The purpose of the staff report is to further identify the applicable criteria of the case being considered and to provide background information about the case. I will then ask if the applicant or anyone from the public would like to testify. The commissioners may ask questions of the staff and applicant during the hearing. During the hearing, some important standards apply. First, those who testify must hold their testimony to the review criteria, which is detailed in the staff report and the notice of public hearing. Second, failure to raise an issue accompanied by statements or evidence sufficient to afford the commission members and the parties an opportunity to respond to that issue precludes an appeal to the Land Use Board of Appeals based on that issue. Do the commissioners, staff, applicant, or appellants have any questions at this time? And if you do, please unmute yourself.
No, thank you.
Okay, I'm not hearing anyone else. Have any members of the commission had any ex parte contacts, conflicts of interest, or bias which would not allow them to render an impartial decision on this matter? I'm not hearing anyone speak up. Okay. Does anyone participating in tonight's hearing wish to challenge the qualifications of any members of the commission? And if you do, please remember to unmute yourself. Okay, I'm not hearing anyone, so the public hearing is now open. May we hear the staff report?
Thank you, Chair Bybee and Commissioners. As you stated, this property, this application is for variance 127-20. The applicant is Chanel Smith, and she is located at 1420 Oregon Avenue. A little bit of the background information, the applicant is requesting to construct a 6-foot fence that's actually in what we consider in our code as a front and a side yard. And the reason for the fencing is to address privacy and security. Back in May, we received a notification that there was some fence that was being installed that exceeded the height or the maximum height in the allowance. And staff mailed out a letter and asking the owner for compliance. We did receive a very quick response from Chanel, and she did ask actually what the process was in order to potentially keep this fence. So we explained the process, and she did decide to pursue a variance, which is why we're here today. The subject property is adjacent to Street Ballpark, which is owned by School District 21, and it is in a community facility overlay with the underlying zone being high density for the school, excuse me, low density. A section of our code that deals with fencing in the front yard does state that any fence in the front and or side yard, which is basically the first 10 to 15 feet of a front yard, is not to exceed 4 feet in height. Property is located on a corner lot in a residential zone, and it does have a unique lot layout as well as the grade location and then the way that the house was situated on the lot. Notification was made to property owners within 300 feet. City departments, franchise utilities, Mid-Columbia Fire and Rescue, as well as Wasco County Health and State Building Codes. The comments that we received, we did go through what we call a pre-application, which is site team. And the only comment that we had from that meeting was with regards to vision clearance. It is noted that vision clearance is not a requirement of a driveway and in a residential zone. And following the meeting, our city engineer actually did make a site visit to take a look at the driveway between the school district property and the applicant's property, and found that it currently does not meet what we would consider clear vision, and even no matter whatever height fence that was directed would also not, there's not going to be clear vision that's met. We received one letter via email from Diana Bailey, which is a neighbor at 1416 Nevada Street. Her main concerns were with regards to the fence and safety, reducing visibility and reaction time for emergency vehicles, drivers, as well as pedestrians that are crossing the street. And just talking about the increased traffic that does occur on Oregon and 14th Street. And that Quentin Street Ballpark does host quite a few activities throughout the years. So I did respond to Ms. Bailey's letter and actually suggested going to our vision clearance section that details that we do not require vision clearance to be met for these applications, and that Oregon Avenue is actually only classified as a residential street, which is our lowest volume street in our street matrix. So unfortunately, even though it seems like it's pretty heavily traveled, it still doesn't go to that next threshold of a higher level street. Staff is actually recommending approval with conditions based upon findings of fact. And in terms of review criteria for a variance, what we're looking at pretty much is making sure that the variance isn't going to be contrary to the purposes of our code, making sure that there are exceptional or extraordinary circumstances that actually apply to the subject property, But it's necessary to preserve the property right, as well as if there's any conditions or circumstances that justify the variance. So in terms of, and I'm just going to kind of summarize them all together here, as you read in the staff report, the intent of our code is to allow for front yards to be open and to actually have that sense of neighborhood. So a front yard to be open to the street. In this situation, the way that the applicant's property is situated adjacent to not only a ball field, but the way that her house is situated, the functional area, and that's what I did identify in the staff report in multiple places, is actually what is kind of her side and rear yard area. The house fronts on Oregon Avenue, is addressed on Oregon Avenue. She has a garage that opens actually on 14th Street, and her back doors, she has two of them, actually do face this back area that she wants the additional height on her fencing. So part of the reason, or actually, and she is here tonight, her main reason is for some asking for the increase in height for security and privacy. And in terms of landscaping, our code states that general screening of unsightly views or visual conflicts must be obscured or blocked, and where privacy are desired. So applicant has stated that the proposed fencing is planned for privacy and security of her property. Fences and walls are to be constructed of certain materials. Hers is actually made of vinyl, which is commonly used for fencing material. And then the height, as I stated before, the 4 foot is the typical, or is the standard that we have for the front and side yard. And her request is actually to increase that to 6 foot for that section. And then we do require that a permit be applied for any fence that's exceeding 4 feet in height. There's no fee for the fence, but we do require that. Again, to just kind of touch on the vision clearance, a proposed fence is not located adjacent to an intersection or an alleyway, which is required to meet vision clearance. And in this situation, it is not required to meet vision clearance. Staff believes that this should be approved with recommended conditions of approval. One is all on-site improvements must be installed by the applicant in accordance to the Dalles Municipal Code. And the second one is fences over 4 feet in height shall require a building permit from the city of the Dalles. Do you have any questions of staff?
Yeah, I just want to clarify. So the fence in question is already built, correct?
Oh, correct, yes. So we did receive a complaint that there was a fence that was being erected. She did stop building. It was pretty much completed at that time. She did stop all of her work on the fence until we were able to schedule her for this meeting. So yes,
Okay.
you are correct.
Okay. And then that fence is the white fence that's visible on page 22 of the agenda package?
I believe so. Let me scroll here. It is, yes, that is correct. That is the fence.
Okay, thank you. I do have one more follow-up question, and that is the fence that is visible on page 23 in the bottom picture, is that the same fence shot from the house, or what is that?
So on page 23 is actually the cyclone. Yes, that would be. So the lower one is shot from her back door, showing the fence there. That is correct.
Okay. All right. Cool. Thank you.
You bet.
Okay. Did any other commissioners have any questions for staff?
I do.
Okay.
So this is a corner lot, is that correct?
That is correct.
And which side is it? The 14th Street side that they're increasing the height of the fence?
So increasing the height will actually be the interior lot line that is abutting the Quinton Street Ballpark parking lot. So it's actually her northern property line.
So this,
Alan, the best
The
place to
fence
see that.
also faces Oregon.
Here, hold on, folks. Let's do one at a time. Alan, go ahead.
so from what I understand, the traffic vision isn't going to change from the intersection of 14th and Oregon.
That is correct. So this is not in that intersection. That is correct.
The best
Okay.
place to see that, Alan, is on page 18 of the package.
Okay, and then Mark, did you have something?
Oh, no, I was just telling, he was asking which street the fence faced on. I just said it was facing Oregon.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, thank you for the clarification.
So, and Alan, just to add a little bit more, the existing 4-foot fence, the cyclone fence, that's 4 foot, and that's, it is, as Philip had suggested, page 18. The applicant showed the 4-foot existing cyclone fence to remain, and that is in the pink, and then the yellow is the 6-foot fence. So she does still have some remaining to install if it's approved tonight.
So it would extend a little bit further to be in line with the back of the house, you mean?
Correct. Yeah, it looks like that.
Okay. Okay, and then how far back is that from that corner? Is it about 50 feet from that corner?
Ooh, that's a great question.
I think the lots are 100 feet deep, so the back corner of the fence would be 100 feet back from 14th.
Potentially, approximately.
Yeah,
Okay.
probably looking at
Actually, I
least
think
40,
somewhere.
40 feet, Grant, I would say.
Okay. Okay. Did any other commissioners have any questions? Cody, did you have any questions?
No, no questions.
Okay. Mark, did you have any other questions?
Well, yeah, I'm looking at this plot on the back here. It is 100 feet deep, so yeah, from 14th to the rear corner of the fence would be 100 feet.
Oh, I see that. Okay.
Yep. Page
Okay.
26.
Okay. Philip, did you have any other questions?
No, I don't. Thank you.
Okay. Alan?
No.
None? Okay. So let's move on then. Thank you for the staff report. I appreciate that. Does the applicant have any testimony at this time?
Sure. Might as well, since I have your guys' time. I think,
Please state your name and address for the record.
Yep. Chanel Smith, 1420 Oregon Street. So one of the things I want to touch on is the exact line of where this 6-foot fence is and where I will finish it if this variance is approved. Before there was like 12 to 14 feet arborvitaes that lined the exact same spots, and they were dead and or dying, so they posed a fire hazard, and those gave some, privacy and security to the backyard. And so I think, when I bought the property, with how the layout of the lot is, the trees that were there, I definitely didn't think that, removing those 12 to 14 foot trees and replacing it with a 6-foot fence would cause an issue. But like Dawn said, once I found out that I wasn't in compliance and I also needed a building permit, I stopped on the construction of it. But with that parking lot right there, there just really wouldn't be, I wouldn't be allowed privacy and security with a 4-foot fence. And so, a 6-foot fence would provide me with that, and with how the layout of the lot is, with the garage at the rear of the house, this really is my side yard, although technically, it's more, or my rear yard. Technically it's the side yard, but yeah, I guess that's it.
Okay, thank you. I just recently had to tear out some arborvitae myself, so I know how you're feeling.
Yeah, they're awful.
It took a truck to pull those stumps out. So, do any of the commissioners have any questions for the applicant?
I don't.
Okay, none from Alan or Philip. Mark, do you have any questions?
Not really at this time.
Okay.
Oh, actually, I do have one question. In the plot plan, it shows a gate for a service vehicle entry. Is that going to be used for parking, or just as a access to the rear yard if they ever needed it?
Yes, Chanel Smith, 1420 Oregon Street. I don't intend to use the backyard for parking. That might, change down the road or anything. But in terms of right now, I am putting in, I think it's a 10.8-foot gate, just in case, service vehicles or access to the yard is needed. But otherwise, it's not intended for parking at this time.
Okay.
Okay. Cody, did you have any questions?
No, I don't have any.
Okay. And I don't have any at this time either. So thank you, Chanel. Okay. Now we will move into the public portion. Does the public have any testimony? And I saw we have a couple other folks on there. If you would like to testify, please unmute yourself, state your name and address for the record. I'll give you about 5 or 10 more seconds in case someone wants to hop on and give some testimony.
Hi, my name's Heather Runyon, 1630 East 19th Street, and I'm actually just calling in support for the approval of the variance. I don't know if you've been able to drive by, but I just feel like I have agreed with the safety with Quinton Street Ballpark right there. It would definitely improve the safety and for Chanel, and it's beautiful. I think she's really helped try to bring that neighborhood up. I mean, she's definitely made it. She's done a lot to the house since she's moved in, and it's a beautiful fence too. But I think most importantly, it's the safety with Quinton Street Ballpark, the parking lot right there, and then the sidewalk. I think it definitely would improve that. So I'm just calling in support of that.
Okay, thank you, Heather. Is there any other members of the public that wishes to testify or provide testimony, I should say? And remember to unmute yourself if you would like to. Okay, we're gonna move on then. So now, since there's no more testimony from the applicant or the public, I'm going to close the hearing. Now is the time for Planning Commission to deliberate. Okay, so I'm going to open it up for discussion. Does anyone wish to discuss any aspects of the application? I, for one...
I'd like to make a comment or a suggestion. Although vision clearance wouldn't actually be required, I think the exit from the parking lot and also from the gate there in the backyard could present a hazard considering the traffic on the on Oregon, and also the sidewalk is right up to it, so you really can't see pedestrians coming by if you were driving out of that backyard. And of course, there's no guarantee that a future owner isn't going to use that for parking. What I'd like to suggest is that she simply move the fence back 10 feet. That would solve all vision problems, and you'd still have most of the backyard for privacy, and it should still serve the security issue.
Can I ask
you'd be able to reuse all the materials.
Can I ask to clarify? So you mean move it 3 foot back from Oregon?
Yeah, 10 feet back from the Oregon side. Yeah, the rest of the fence isn't a problem. I don't see.
No, on page 18 on that satellite shot, it looks like there's some kind of shed or something there, I believe.
Oh yeah, I think that shed's gone.
So I think one thing we need to keep in mind too, and I know that the parking at the ballpark could potentially cause some issues. There are multiple exits on that parking lot. It looks like there might be 2. Yeah, about 2. But the clear vision language, I think, specifically addresses intersections. And that was something that I was actually going to discuss is, in my opinion, since the fence is not being proposed along that intersection, and it's actually a good amount of feet back, if that lot is actually 100 feet deep, it's only about, the 6 foot fence is about 60 feet away from that corner. And I do feel comfortable with the fact, since the city engineer did go out and do a clear vision check on the intersection, he may have said, it can't even be met with a 4 foot fence, but you can see from those pictures from the site visit that currently, on page, what is that? Page 23, you can still see pretty clearly on the street coming up. I do see your point, Mark, with the parking lot, but looking at the
the problem would be with the parking lot because there's no problem with 14th Street. That's far enough back from it.
Right. I don't think that there's anything in the ordinance that we can stick to and clearly condition the fence to be moved back because of that parking lot exit. Does staff have any input on that at all?
So if you were to request that be moved back 10 feet, then she would not need a variance. That's what our current code allows. So basically that would be, she wouldn't even need to come before you for a request. That would be something I would approve across the counter.
Okay. And does the, am I correct in assuming that there aren't really any standards that address the parking lot exit for the ballpark there?
In terms of vision clearance or?
Right, yeah.
No, that is correct. So the city attorney's, or excuse me, city engineer's review was from that driveway and basically stated vision clearance is not required to be met. And that he said any type of fencing there at any height would make it a little difficult to meet anyway.
Okay. So if we went, if we did go the direction that Mark is talking about, where they would be required to be 10 feet back, we would essentially be denying the variance. And then if we approve it, it'd be approving the application at hand. So, Mark, did you have anything else to add to that?
I guess not, except even though Oregon Street is supposedly a secondary street with all the traffic on it, it's essentially functioning as a collector street, and I think there are, even though it might be technically meeting the clearance code for a residential street, I think there's clearly a hazard here. Of course, the arborvitae was the same problem, but if we've got an opportunity to improve safety, we should take it.
Okay. Do any of the other commissioners have any other items to deliberate?
Yeah, I have a question on the pre-existing arborvitae. So was that running along basically the same line along Oregon Avenue and then back adjoining the parking lot?
Based on the pictures that are in the staff report, that's what it looks like. Correct, Dawn?
That is correct, yes. So page 21, Philip, will show you the arborvitae that used to exist. And like the applicant said, it was about 12 to 14 feet in some areas in height.
I see, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Cody, do you have any input?
No.
Okay. Alan, do you have any questions or anything to deliberate?
No, I think the fence to me looks a lot better than what was there before.
Okay. Okay, so it does sound like we're kind of at two different positions right now, and it can be decided with a vote. It's either to deny the variance or approve the variance. Let's take a look. Does the commission feel like they're ready to make a decision at this time?
Yep.
Philip, you're ready?
Yeah.
Mark, are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Cody?
I'm ready, yeah.
And Alan?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so for variance 127-20, those in favor, here, let's take a look. Let me get back to the packet real quick. I want to make sure I pronounce this right. Okay. I guess at this time, would anyone like to entertain a motion on the application?
I can do that. I motion to approve the variance as presented.
Okay.
I second that.
Okay. Moved by Philip and seconded by Cody. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Okay. And Mark, are you voting in favor or are you going to vote in opposition?
No, I'm voting in opposition.
Okay. And anyone else that would like to vote in opposition, raise your hand. Okay. 4-1. Okay. So now we'll move to, since it was approved, we'll move to resolution. Let's get to the first page. Resolution 594-20, approval of variance 127-20 for Chanel Smith. Would anyone like to entertain a motion for the resolution?
I'm happy to do that. So I motion that. Am I motioning for approval, or what am I motioning for exactly?
Yes, you'd be motioning for approval of resolution 594-20.
Okay. So I motion for approval of the resolution 594-20.
Is it, sorry, staff, is it 594-20 or 595-20?
It looks like the way it's written is 595 on page 29. So it does say 595.
Typo. My apologies.
That's
But
okay.
it is, so it is 595-20.
Okay, so darn, I wish we would have caught that for approval of the agenda. Is that going to mess with anything?
No.
No. We're okay.
Okay. So we should say it is 595-20.
Yes.
Okay. So I motion to approve the resolution 595-20.
Okay.
I
And
second that.
And
Go ahead.
Cody beat me to it. So Philip motioned, Cody seconded. All those in favor, raise your right hand. And if you're on the phone, say aye.
Aye.
And those in opposition?
Opposed?
Okay. And it's 4-1. The resolution goes through. Okay. Well, thank you for joining us, folks. Chanel, Heather, and Chanel's mom. Sorry, I can't remember your name. I just see iPad. But thank you for joining us, folks. I appreciate it. Now we will move to staff comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Got a few items tonight for staff comments to the commission. The first is your next regularly scheduled meeting is August 20th, and we do not have any public hearings scheduled for that meeting or other business that's timely. So if it is the commission's desire, we could cancel that meeting. And if so, your next regularly scheduled meeting would then be September 4th.
Okay.
That makes
Fine
sense.
with that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
So
may
for-
have to. I
Yes.
may have to miss the September 4th meeting. I'm going to be in Sweden at that time.
So we will go ahead and then cancel your next meeting on August 20th. So we'll do that. The next item is that the legacy development, the appeal hearing for the city council meeting has been scheduled for August 24th. That's a Monday. And so that will be a special meeting of the city council. The next item is your planning commission bylaws. You may remember on the bylaws that have been adopted, there is a section regarding attendance at meetings. And I believe it states something that if you miss, I think it's more than 3 consecutive meetings, you can effectively be discharged for the commission. It does say in attendance. And then since we have been meeting via Zoom for the last several months, we've been discussing whether there's a need to amend those bylaws that would allow a planning commissioner to attend the meetings remotely. You know, we've had in the past where it may have been a planning commissioner or it may have been at a city council meeting that one of the councilors and commissioners attended the meeting via speakerphone with limited success. But we were thinking that with the advent of the Zoom technology and also with our city council chambers that have undergone an upgrade in our technological abilities over the last few weeks, it is now easier to attend meetings remotely, even in Sweden, perhaps. And so we were wondering whether there was an opportunity here to amend the bylaws that would allow for commissioners to attend the meetings remotely. And then also if you wanted to revisit the being absent at that 3 meetings or whatever the exact language is. So that's something we could also bring back. So if there is consensus among the commissioners to allow for the attendance virtually and actually have those written into the bylaws, then we will work with the city attorney's office and provide that some suggested language for you at an upcoming meeting. So does that sound like a reasonable amendment or discussion to have on amending the bylaws?
Sounds great.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
Okay. So, all right, we'll do that. And the next item is kind of keeping with
Can I ask a quick question to one of the things you said?
Yes.
On the city council hearing, do we have any role in that?
Any role in the appeal hearing?
Yeah, exactly.
As planning commissioner? You could speak as an individual, not as a representative or appointed by the planning commission. And Don may want to help me with this. I don't know in the past that if commission has appointed a spokesperson to attend the city council meeting.
So I think we've had it both ways where there was just no presence of the planning commission and or the chair or a vice chair has attended just to kind of see it through. I think there was one appeal that we had about 10 years ago that Bruce did end up having to, they'd asked for Bruce's comments and he basically stated they supported the application and staff's recommendation. So it was pretty minor role.
Okay. Yeah, if it does come to that, let me know. I'm more than happy to attend the city council hearing and provide the planning commission stance.
So Steve, I don't know, is that something you've seen in other jurisdictions too?
Well, if that were the case, then I would suggest that there would be a formal action by the planning commission to appoint a representative to attend that meeting. You know, since it was a split vote at the commission level, you know, the council may want a little more information on why there was a split vote. You know, what were the issues on either side? So again, if you think that if you believe it would be beneficial to have a representative of the planning commission, then again, I would suggest that those commissioners in attendance tonight, you know, take some action on that. And so when that person, if they were to attend the city council meeting, then could make that announcement that they're here as a representative of the commission. But not just show up and, you know, I'm on the planning commission, this is my opinion, because it is the, you know, it is the action of the commission that representative would be representing, I guess, the commission's action that evening. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. Does that answer your question, Philip?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay. Do the commissioners feel a need for one of us to be at the city council hearing? I know that we've had quite a few, we've had some folks drop off, and I don't know if Bruce will be picking his term back up. Was that one of the topics you were going to talk about, Steve? Okay. I'll let you delve into that then. So do you folks feel the need for someone to be at the city council hearing? Because I think Steve is right. It was a pretty divided vote. It was fairly close on our decision. And it might be good to have someone there.
I mean, personally, the data from our meeting is there and publicly available. I think it'd be a conflict of interest for one of us to be there describing our view of how the meeting went, because it's a biased filter.
Right, and theoretically, they should be reading everything they're given.
Yeah.
You would hope.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, so to answer your question, no, I don't think that someone should be there.
Okay, I can agree with that. I think that's a good answer. They should just be able to read the minutes from the meeting and see what our stance was and what everyone else's stance was. Okay.
Now, again, a commissioner may attend the meeting and speak as an individual, but not as a representative of the commission as a whole. So there's that option if you're so inclined. Regarding Commissioner LaViere, Bruce's term ended a couple of months ago, and he ended up notifying the city just here recently that he did not wish to pursue another term on the commission. So there is a vacancy now on the commission. And if you know of anyone that's interested, please contact the city clerk, and she'll assist that process along with the mayor who does make the appointments. A couple of items of what the department will be working on here shortly. A couple of months ago, the League of Oregon Cities released a model ordinance for small cells, wireless facilities. And so the staff with the city attorney's office, we are looking at that model ordinance, and we will be crafting an ordinance for the city, I think, based on that model ordinance. That's going to take a few months, but that would come before the Planning Commission as well as the City Council. Another study that has been released recently is the buildable lands inventory for the commercial and industrial properties in the city, the employment lands. This work started a little after the first of the year. There is an advisory committee that was appointed. Bruce was the Planning Commission's representative on that, so we do now have a vacancy on that advisory committee. And we would like to be able to have a representative from the commission, and we'll send out the reports and the memos from that inventory. We were asking to have the advisory committee review and return any comments or questions they had to us by next Friday on the 14th. Once those are received and any revisions that are necessary to those reports will then be made, and the next step in the process will be a joint workshop between the county commissioners, the city council, and the directors from the Port of the Dalles. And then if there's any modifications or revisions needed at that time, they will be made. And then the reports then would be subsequently would come to the Planning Commission and then on to the City Council. So what I'm asking for now, if there's a commissioner that's interested in being appointed as the commission's representative to the advisory committee, and if so, we will get those reports out to you.
I'll do that, please.
Any other interests? Going once, going twice?
I'll support Cody.
Okay.
I support him being the appointee. I mean. All
right. I got three other chances for representatives here. So we've also recently were notified that we were successful in 3 grant applications. 2 of those deal with the recently adopted House Bill 2001 and 2003. 2001 deals with the missing middle for housing opportunities. One of the recent code amendments that the city made last year dealt with allowing duplexes within single-family zones. So that was part of one of the requirements for HB 2001. The other HB 2003 deals with housing production strategies of needed housing in your communities. And so we applied for both and were awarded both. And so we recently met with the consultant team that was selected by the state, starting to finalize the scope of work on those 2 studies. I'm suspecting work on both of these will begin probably sometime around the latter half of September, maybe in that time frame. So we would be asking for a representative from the Planning Commission for both of those committees, advisory committees. One on the 2001, which deals with some more code amendments, and the second would be the actual housing production strategy 2003. You don't have to give me your answers tonight, but if there is an interest in the commissioners for either one of those,
how do you, Philip, how do you feel about possibly looking at 2003?
I don't feel that I have more bandwidth to share at this time.
Okay, that's understandable. I thought maybe with your background. I'm sorry, Alan. I don't know too much about your background. What's your background?
Well, I'd love the opportunity to introduce myself here to the group. I don't know if now's a good time.
Yeah, no, now's a good time.
I'm Alan Easling. Feel very honored to have this opportunity to serve on the committee. My background is in construction management, primarily larger public works projects, but some private development, commercial development. So I think I can bring something to the table with this commission, and possibly as a representative for one of those that you were talking about now.
Okay. What did 2003 mainly entail, Steve?
That is a housing production strategy. And we were one of, I think, just maybe 3 or 4 cities in the state that were awarded this opportunity by the state, this grant opportunity. And the goal is to develop, at the end of the day, a prototypical housing production strategy for needed housing in the community. And that is all facets of housing: ownership, rental properties, multifamily, single family at various price points. And then most recently, the rulemaking committee on HB 2003 added housing for the unhoused. So there will be an opportunity to work with various community service providers on supportive and transitional housing strategies as well. So.
Okay. And I haven't forgotten about you either, Mark. Since you don't need anyone at this time, I bet we could deliberate on that, and anyone who wants to show interest can show it. Sounds like there's a couple options. One's more hands-on. The other one is related to code amendments, 2001. Is that what you said?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
And then the last opportunity, the city was also awarded a grant, technical assistance grant, where the state selects the consultant team for this. And this is the West Side Study. This is going to be a land use and circulation network study of the western portion of the community. Project boundaries include the commercial districts, where the Cascade Square, the Fred Meyer Center is, includes the industrial areas, includes the areas all the way out westerly to the city limits, and then also encompasses the Murray's Addition and the Foley Lakes areas in the unincorporated. So this is going to be a major study. It's going to be starting up sometime around probably November, and then it's going to last throughout 2021 into 2022. The consultant was, we just went through an evaluation selection process, and the consultant that was selected for that, and it was just announced this week, is Angelo Planning Group. And Angelo Planning Group was also selected for these 2 other studies, the HB 2001 and the 2003. So years past, Angelo produced a number of housing reports for the city, so they do have that local knowledge. I think was very helpful as they made it through that selection process. So again, this is going to be a major land use and transportation study, looking at land use and zoning patterns, looking at infrastructure needs. And it's going to be a major effort. And at the end of the day, there will be a series of recommendations on perhaps zoning changes, comprehensive plan changes, infrastructure improvements, et cetera. So again, that was going to start sometime probably around the November timeframe. But again, it's another one that we'd like to have a representative from the Planning Commission on that advisory committee as well. So that's a little heads up on that one. The department's currently recruiting for a planner position. That's underway. We've had quite a few people apply. They're being reviewed now for the first cut. And that choice, the final selection will be with the new director. That'll be that person's choice for my position. The recruitment's also underway for the directorship. No announcements have been made yet on that position. So for the time being, you still got me for a few more weeks. So.
Are they, is that planner position, is that for the associate position or for the urban renewal position?
This will be for what we classify as the planner position. It's the entry-level position of the professional planning series.
Okay. Okay. And are you folks going to be backfilling Riley's position?
That we are, that was Riley's position.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah. And those are my comments. Don, do you have something you'd like to share?
I do not. Think you got it all.
Okay. Well, that concludes the staff comments.
Okay. Thank you, staff. Are there any other commissioner comments or questions at this time?
Sure. I just have one quickie. I was talking to a couple other of my broker friends, and a couple of my clients have brought this up too. My knowledge, unless I'm grossly mistaken, we don't have anything in our planning code for tiny homes or container houses. And I was wondering if that's something that we should start thinking about.
Well, actually, the Oregon State building codes were amended a couple of years ago to allow for tiny houses.
Okay.
They instituted a couple of new sections of the code, and they classify them two different ways, one with and without wheels.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And without wheels on a permanent foundation, basically, you know, providing has to be served by infrastructure, et cetera, et cetera.
Huh.
So the Oregon codes have changed, and so we have not adopted to allow tiny homes or container homes within our zoning ordinance to date. But I suspect that's going to be one of the topics that's going to be covered in that HB 2001
Okay.
study, and possibly.
What exactly is a container home?
It'd be like if you take a shipping container and modify it. I mean, essentially, you're creating a shell for a structure with a shipping container, and then you're just.
Oh, okay. I see what you mean.
It's a millennial thing, Mark.
Yeah.
So just.
I've drawn up my.
Don't do it in the UGB yet, Brent. So we do have the we call them intermodal containers, is what our code identifies them as, and they are prohibited currently in residential zones, Cody. So the tiny houses are a little different. So the intermodal container, we'd have to make a modification if that's something that we want to take a look at.
Is that mainly because of design?
I think design, yeah, because they pop in around the community and backyards, and usually aren't super attractive, I think is part of it. We do allow them in the industrial zones, and we allow them in the light industrial zones, but they have to be maintained and somewhat obscured and painted in good condition.
Okay.
So if someone was to let's say they take a shipping container and they build a trussed roof on top of it, and then they put siding on it, would that count as a dwelling, or would that still be a container home?
Well, I think I will maybe defer to Steve, but I believe if it's anything that's an intermodal container, currently our code does not allow that. So, but we could make a modification to the code.
Container, still a container. So.
Yeah, I think it mostly comes down to, are you using 2x6s for walls or not?
Yeah.
Then it's a building codes thing.
Correct.
Also.
Interesting. Yeah, for tiny homes, at least in the county, the spiel that I've been telling folks is, there's no discrimination between homes. If it meets the definition of it, it's a home. It's just a matter of building codes and how they classify it. But it's interesting to hear the city's stance is a little different. I didn't know that, so it's good to know.
Is it essentially if it's Still on wheels, it's just an RV.
Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
And that's one thing the county requires too is, if you do bring it on the property, it has to be a permanent fixture. You got to remove the wheels and the tongue and all that.
Now, we do allow for an RV as a temporary living quarters for hardship cases or if your house is under construction, things like that. So, we have that provision in the code. With the HB 2001 and 2003 studies, our advisory committee, we want to have a representative from the county, whether it's county planning or county building. And so we could then have that direct liaison who knows building codes and would help us with that effort.
Okay. Yeah, I agree, Cody. That'd be something good to address. And yeah, it sounds like we're kind of on the track to address those standards. So it'd be good to, whatever type of home folks want to create, as long as it meets the standards and can somewhat meet the design of the neighborhood. If I know a giant metal cube isn't typically something that folks traditionally go after, but if you can make it look good and make it tie in with the neighborhood, it's a dwelling. So
now the Oregon building codes do have a minimum square footage for what they consider a habitable room, and it's 70 square feet. And we were looking at what was called transitional housing, supportive housing for housing the homeless, having these these individual little living pods. And this one firm manufactures these things. They kind of build them on site, kind of a plug and play type model. And they were, I think the smallest was 56 square feet. And so our first inquiry into the building codes was no, it was not allowed because it was less than 70 square feet. However, they are classified, the state classifies them as emergency housing, which removes them from the residential building code section into another section of the code, which does allow for a smaller than 70 square feet. So if there was a situation or a development that had these smaller than 70 square feet and we classify them as emergency housing and they met other ingress and egress standards, then yes, they could be used. So that's kind of a tiny, tiny house.
Interesting.
It seems like excuse me, it seems like that'd be too small even to be functional as emergency. That's smaller than most garden sheds. I've got a 8 by 12 garden shed. That's 96 square feet, I think. So 70 square feet. That'd be roughly 3/4 that. So I think it'd be just a bit more than 8 by 8 if my math is right.
Or 7 by 10.
I'm not even sure you would really be saving any money going smaller than that.
Well, and I think the point I was going to say is it would only be for a limited duration if it's emergency housing, right? It would only be probably for a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
Something that small, I don't think would be something that would be permanently inhabited. It would be, I don't know how the whole program's working out, but the way it sounds is it would be, if you need a home for the night, here's a space for you to come and sleep and be in a safe, warm place so that you don't die of hypothermia, essentially. That sounds awesome.
But you're definitely right, Mark. Tiny homes, the cost per square foot is really high because you still need the basic infrastructure. So scaling down size brings the overall cost down some, just in pure numbers, but the cost per square foot is typically very high in tiny homes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Were there any other commissioner comments or questions?
One other about tiny homes. What is the actual definition as far as square footage of what they consider a tiny home?
That's a good
I
question.
don't know.
Yeah, that's a good question. Usually the tiny homes that I've seen, and I've been to a couple presentations at OAPA conferences, but the ones that I've seen are usually like 500 square feet or less, something like that. They usually consist of a common area with one bedroom, maybe even a loft bedroom that you climb up into. I don't know what the cutoff square footage is though, Mark. I'd have to look it up.
Mark, Brent. Mark, I just looked online and it looks like it's between 100 and 400 square feet is what the national average is.
Oh, okay.
I don't know how tiny that is, but pretty tiny.
Well, see, 500 square foot, that's just about, or just slightly smaller than the first house I had, actually. Well, actually, there was a half story above that. It wasn't really that usable since there's no heat or electric up there. But
Yeah.
in the summer cottage I have now, 600 square feet. So, and that's just bedroom, living room, kitchen, and nothing else.
400 square feet is half the size of my house right now. So.
Yeah, that would be a small 2-car garage.
Okay. Are there any other commissioner comments or questions? I'm seeing head shakes. No. Okay. So I'm going to adjourn the meeting. Thank you, folks, for joining, and we'll see you, sounds like, in September.
Right on.
Yay.
Okay.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Okay.
Bye-bye. Take care.
Bye.
Bye. Paula, you're muted.
Picky.
So you're going to send me over that stuff and I'll just sign it digitally?
Yes, I'll email it to you. I don't know how the electronic signature works. Sometime you'll have to show me.
What I usually do is I just pull it up in my email on my phone.
Oh, really?
And then I can hit the draw button on it, and then I'll just turn it on its side and sign it. So I'll make sure to do it in blue this time.
Okay, thank you. I'll send them out to you.
Okay, perfect.
All right. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Paula.
Bye-bye.
Bye.